What in the hell?
It's unfortunate.
Yes,
Um,
I'm getting your stuff. I'll make a portal to get us back.
We found it. Start digging. Okay, last episode was pretty much a low point in terms of sanity, so we got to get out of here. If I don't start doing something of consequence in the next 5 minutes, I think I'm going to lose it. So we're moving out, but to move out, we need an actual path, and to have an actual path, we need a hub, and the Equinox is kind of a mess right now. So much so that I'm not even looking at it. It's bad. So as seems to happen every season, I guess I'm going to be the one doing the hub, because if I leave these people to their own devices, it ends with 1,000 unmarked cobblestone tunnels all branching off from one another. So we're going to get started on that now, because someone's got to do it. When I was making the Equinox hub, I wanted to try and do as much different from a nether hub as possible, because if you're not one of those suckers that just puts a bunch of lines of ice on the roof and thinks that's acceptable, generally speaking, your nether hub is going to have a couple of things in it. It's generally just going to be a large enclosed room, it's going to be up near the roof, it's going to have a couple of tunnels going in a couple of directions. I prefer the method of nether hub that's a bunch of empty tunnels that can be claimed to go to specific destinations, so you can just have a button that you press and you go down it and you're at the other end. You don't have to worry about going down the west tunnel and then hanging a left and then going another left and then you're at your destination. But with the Equinox, because it's not inherently dangerous and it has open sky access, it's a lot easier to build something that fits into the landscape instead of trying to build something to keep the landscape out. So I'm going for more of an open concept design with, again, still empty quote-unquote tunnels, but really just areas to indicate where your tunnel should start. And for the central area, it sort of seemed easier to just dig out large squares and fill in the terrain afterwards, so that it's exactly the right size, instead of trying to dig natural terrain and just hoping that it lines up symmetrically with the rest of the hub. And the outside area where the quote-unquote tunnels are is actually asymmetrical. I went for a crescent shape for the podzol instead of an actual ring, just for something a little more visually interesting. And I wanted to use water, which is something you just can't do in the nether whatsoever. And one of the advantages of designing the hub like this is that you can dig paths between locations, or if the hub is visible from the sky and roughly at 0, 0, if you want to get from a location, you can just fly up over the canopy and go in a straight line to 0, 0, and you'll know when you get to the hub because it's the large cleared out area. I would have liked to have gotten a little more into this time lapse, but unfortunately at this point the replay mod was still not updated for this version, so I had to position the camera manually, and doing that in the moment in dense foliage did not yield fantastic results. So let's just look at it from the ground. Alright, so let me go through this a little bit. This is I guess the equivalent of the nether hub for this season. I'm sick of the nether for travel, and I designed the Equinox specifically for that reason. So we had some paths, and we were getting to the point where that wasn't going to be enough to navigate by. So I've made some arches, I guess. This is not as impressive as it could be because I need to clear out these trees, but cutting down the trees in the equinox may or may not be a bad thing. So I need to trick some sucker into doing it for me. And I still need to do a lot of texturing. I've only really detailed, well, not even this one. Where's the one I detailed? I think this bridge over here is the only one I've detailed so far. And also I keep running into grass not growing because it's technically nighttime in the equinox. I swear to God, Casey. But long story short, basically, this is sort of how travel is going to be facilitated, and it's going to be a lot more impressive when I'm done with it. But I gotta do something that's just, I've been doing nothing but public infrastructure. I gotta make myself an actual house. The one I have at spawn is too cramped. There's no room for all my stuff. And it's not what I wanted to do this season because I've said multiple times I'm doing mud. So I'm moving my stuff out of there. Where is Zacticon?
Yeah.
There he
Okay,
is.
I've got the llama on a lead. Hop on the camel.
What the? Oh,
And we're gonna go.
That's nice if that's a two-seater.
this is foolproof.
What could go wrong? We just have to walk about a kilometer like this at the speed that this camel apparently goes. Which I thought
is
would be a lot
entertaining.
faster.
Yeah, you'd think.
Oh, camels can sprint. Okay. I'm going to wake up tomorrow, go into my house, and go, oh my God, I've been robbed. Because I'm not going for any of this. All right, so I actually already moved my stuff out of there. That was what we call shooting in anachronistic order. But it is not organized at all. And I don't know if what I'm going to build next is going to help that. I just know it's not going to be in this village. I don't know where, though. I saw a couple of spots. I don't think what I'm going to build is going to be the central area. But I think it's going to be an important part of it, at least in the early phases. It's probably just going to be an ordinary house with a little bit of space for my stuff in it, maybe. But I don't know where specifically. This is a project that's going to take a lot of terraforming. And I'm designing that with that in mind for a lot of these buildings. I.e., I'm designing it in such a way that that terraforming can happen underneath of them, and they can be adjusted to compensate, basically. I think my gut is telling me right here, and I'm going to go with my gut on this one. I think it's going to be here. Yeah, I'm going with my gut on this one. I'm putting it right here. Now, of course, I've walked all the way over here and did not bring supplies, so I have to go all the way back. I think this zombie village is probably going to be important, if for no other reason than to have the villagers. And also, having a village here. This is interesting, because there's a village here, but there's also no incentive to keep the villagers around. I'm curious if coming in here would start a raid, because there is technically the bounding box of a village structure, but not the bounding box of a village itself. I'll have to test that. I'm curious, because if I could have like an area that gets raided but without any villagers in it, that would be an interesting farm to design. There's a pillager outpost within what I consider to be my borders that I think it would be interesting to try and convert into a farm as well. But that's another story and she'll be told another time. Now, I've said repeatedly, and those of you who have been paying attention have picked up on this, I'm doing mud this season. Because last season, I was doing nothing with dirt, and I had 12 double chests of dirt. And what is mud? It's just dirt. Also wheat, but mostly dirt. And by God, am I going to capitalize on that. This is kind of painful to make. I need an auto crafter for this. I know how to make an infinite dirt farm with the resources I have in Foundation. But it requires technology that I do not at this time have at my disposal. Is this going to be enough? I think so. I would also like, just for the sake of argument, I'd like to get a little bit of deep slate and a little bit of moss. Now, moss I have in no short supply. Do I have azalea leaves? I do not. That's going to be the bottleneck. I have very little. There are a couple of weird niche resources like azalea leaves. I need spore blossoms, and I need mangrove roots. I'm going to need a lot of too. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about sort of what I'm planning for this base. Now, last season I went I don't want to say very modern, but I didn't go with the kind of aesthetic to which this game is catered, which is to say ambiguously medieval, like Magitech fantasy world bordering on steampunk in places. This is sort of these are the things that this game is set up to accommodate. And I did not do that. I went Sandals Jamaica, right? Palms Ahoy, very, very modern style beach resort. Or, well, again, not modern style, because modern as a style means something else entirely, but contemporary aesthetics. Now, this is still not quite that, but it's not quite congruous with the feel that the game seems to want to move you towards, but it is more antiquated, I want to say. One of my thoughts, before I realized that everyone else was going to be doing that this season, is I was considering post-apocalyptic, and I'm still leaning that way, but not really in a conventional sense. I'm gonna try freehanding this. I have a sense of the style, but not the explicit details. So I'm gonna just try and exist within the confines of the style and not within the screenshot on my other monitor, because I have a draft of what I want this house to look like, but that is not necessarily what every one of these is going to look like, and I'm going to have to get used to working in a space that is not necessarily predefined if this is going to work. Because with Palms Ahoy especially, I planned out a lot of stuff ahead of time. And I think I want to try freehanding this season a lot more. Yeah, this is going to be, it's going to be not conventionally post-apocalyptic in the way that you would expect, but it is the implication that we are looking at a society that has long since gone to ruin. Basically, my idea, a lot of post-apocalyptic operates on the natural disaster or plague or conflict that has instantiated the end of the world, right? And this is coming from a similar place of maybe closer to the plague than, you know, perhaps to nuclear Armageddon, for example, but not. It is more an outcome of man versus nature than it is an outcome of man versus man. It basically, I've just been in my notes. It just says weird plant. So the idea that I've been toying with and that I sketched out on a post-it note that I left in Zacticon's house like an idiot is that there's these people, whoever they were, whoever built this mud structure, through, I don't know, science or accidental discovery or some mechanism that was not wholly intentional, came across a weird plant, as the name might suggest. And the plant basically wrecked the local ecosystem. It was a highly invasive species. The whole civilization was pretty much, the agriculture was mucked up beyond repair by this. And what we're seeing is not even so much the damage done by the plant. The plant itself was pretty bad, but what really hurt was any attempt to contain it, because if it's a very resilient plant. It's like a kudzu situation or a there's like a strangler vine or something that I believe is also fairly invasive, and there's something from Russia that I don't recall the real name. I just know it's colloquially called Stalin's Revenge. I wish I could remember the name of that right now, but yeah. But it's a fairly resilient plant, and you know, the technology of the time was not sufficient to quarantine it, i.e., you know, conventional pesticides. And basically, they had to resort to trying to beat it at its own game. And so this civilization was not so much destroyed by the plant as they were destroyed by the plants that they started planting en masse in an attempt to basically destroy the soil so that nothing could grow here. And if nothing else, contain this plant before it spread anymore. Obviously, this did not work out, as we are currently standing in their last vestiges, but the wreckage of it is basically to say that it's not going to be desolate so much as it is going to be abnormally verdant. And abnormally verdant in ways that I guess would not necessarily fit the concept of verdant, because we're talking about not just greenery that's been planted here, but also like just throwing literally anything they have at the wall to see what sticks. Like, can we just plant a bunch of roses here and have those take up all the nutrients in the soil and this thing won't be able to grow? Evidently not, but now we're stuck with a bunch of roses and this weird kudzu plant, right? Something along those lines. And part of my idea is also, I don't know how much of this I'm going to incorporate, but the idea that in addition to all of that, there was sort of like the worst possible thing happened to these people. So first they had to deal with the plant, and the plant was sort of, I guess, spreading from the middle of the city, which is probably going to be somewhere over there, outwards. And there's like a barrier built up that sort of worked to contain it, but didn't do a great job. But then also the reason that it's mud was because coming from the outside, you know, probably like the southeast or something, I don't know. It's not going to be a consistent direction, but coming from the outside was a dust storm or something, and that sort of necessitated falling back from the outside where the wind is being broken by the buildings, but then also falling back from the inside where agriculture is impossible because you've got a weird plant like destroying the local environment, to the point that everything sort of congregates in a weird strip around the middle. And this is sort of meant to imply not that the building was made from mud necessarily, but that the building was this dark stone and it's now basically, you know, caked in dirt from the dust storm. Now this is where things get interesting. I really, again, should have brought a chest. I guess I have this. I can put some of this moss away till we need it, because that's going to be a finishing decoration. But to cut a long story short, basically we're looking at people who had the worst possible luck, got stuck between, you know, a rock and a hard place, or a plant and a dirt place. I didn't bring a bed over either, did I? No. And at the end of the day, we're basically screwed over by a number of very bad combinations, essentially making the place uninhabitable. And, you know, of course, nowadays, this plant is very interesting to science because it is highly resistant to anything trying to kill it. Thus, explaining the presence of the Arvacan Empire's leading theoretical physicist. Save for the one that is on maternity leave. But, really should have brought a bed, because this is going to become inconvenient very quickly. We're just going to be working in the dark and hoping nothing sneaks up on us. Part of my sort of source material for this was Petra. I started out just sort of tinkering with the idea of just building Petra, because I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do this season. And eventually sort of came up with the idea of, like, what if each individual pillar of Petra was just its own building? Because it's really like some very detailed pillars, and I was trying to emulate the pillars and swiftly coming to the conclusion that that on its own was fairly interesting architecture, and what if I just hollowed that out? Yeah, okay, I need to get a bed. This is going to completely derail any semblance of train of thought I had, but I can't be fighting off monsters while I'm trying to talk about my weird plant. I made sort of a mistake. I put an enchantment on my sword. Smite in Foundation I've recently reworked so that it doesn't... It's not that it specifically does more damage against undead, it's that it does more damage against single targets. So if you're hitting one target over and over, eventually it will do more damage than attacking it the equivalent number of times with sharpness. But I did something stupid where I also put knockback on it, which makes it very difficult to chain attacks against a single target. So I might need to just completely rebuild my sword from scratch, which is obnoxious because I have mending on it, and mending is quite rare. I'm still fairly close to adhering to the image because I did like the structure I built, but I'm making it bigger because I was finding interior space to be an issue. So it's something like this. And I don't know quite yet if this will work at this scale. I also have no scaffolding. But it's something like that, and then we do that. Then we go up a little more. We put in this. And then this comes up to here, and we actually do that. I guess I need to build up the wall here. Oop. Okay, can instant mine packed mud without haste. This is good information to have going forward. I should probably make a worse pickaxe as well. I need a worse sword, a worse pickaxe. My bow's pretty good. I think my bow is fine. But worse sword and a worse pickaxe, apparently, should be my goal here. Now, the other thing I'm really focusing on with this city is not only the botanical abomination by which it has been overrun, but also I'm going... Palms Ahoy was very flat and very easy to navigate because it was, a tacky beach resort that needs to be fun for the whole family. But this, being a very strange, antiquated city, I'm never getting that back. I keep referring to it in terms of Assassin's Creed, a game which I have never played, and likely won't because who has the time? But the gist of it is that any given part of this city is not necessarily easy to access. Like, you have to do some weird, parkour and kick flips and jumping off of balconies to get around. You gotta jump across roofs and up, fire escapes and across people's, clotheslines to get where you want to go. This is not going to be a city where, there's not going to be a front door on this building. To get into this building, you're going to have to jump on some, urns or, wicker baskets, and then up a ladder, and then through the middle, and then down or something, right? This is not a city that has necessarily withstood the test of time with regards to navigability. So I want to do this as well, because I really like this shade of blue with this shade of brown. It's very... There's a McDonald's in Arizona that has to be this color scheme to not ruin the view shed of some historical town or something, which amuses me greatly. But it's a very Arizona desert color scheme from what brief time I've spent in Arizona, either dying of heat stroke or oxygen deprivation at high altitudes or whatever. That's just called altitude sickness, KirbAvion. It has a word. So you can sort of see the shape I'm going for. It's got a weird sense of depth to it. It's very... The walls are doing a lot of heavy lifting with especially the new texture I've given them in Foundation, where they look like actual columns instead of just being weirdly stacked bricks. But you can see the shape I'm going for. And ideally, this moss would not be used as scaffolding and would actually be used for a little bit of foliage. And I think I'm going to add some of that now, actually. Just to see what this looks like. So we're going to do that, and we're going to throw some of this in there. So, just sort of a rough idea. And in fact, I'm going to knock this out and just make that a block of moss. Maybe even this one. Oh, no, that's got to be a leaf. I've figured out some rules for how this works. If it's going up against a wall, you can't use moss, you have to use a leaf, because otherwise the moss will connect to it. So you do a leaf with a block of moss behind it. But I do not have very many azalea leaves, and I did not bring the few I have with me, because I just wanted to sketch, but I, as I've learned repeatedly about myself, cannot sketch. I need to do the whole damn thing at once. Yeah, so basically this is sort of where we're going. And this is just going to go up, and it's going to be a tower. I don't know if it's going to have a roof. I've toyed around with copper, but I've built a couple of variants of this in single player, and I've really kind of just liked it having a flat roof with just like some parapets or something. Is it a parapet or a crenellation? I feel like it'd be a crenellation. Nobody knows what either of those words mean, though, so I am, I think, in the clear insofar as misusing them goes. This is where Dewey is going to send me a copy-pasted Merriam-Webster dictionary definition, or more likely a ChatGPT-generated definition of what a parapet is, that I will have already looked up by the time this is over, making it completely redundant. Thanks, Dewey. This broadens out a little and becomes a sort of balcony area, but not really. The thing about it is, it's not so much a balcony, because it's completely contained. It's just an open floor. But at the same time, I'm looking at the amount of mud I have left, and I'm considering to myself, does it really need to be an even taller building than this? Can I maybe just fall to my death? Maybe just, you know, stop it there for now, maybe expand it later? And, you know, I'm thinking to myself, it's a pretty good idea. Maybe this is just a small building. Maybe I'll expand it later. And again, I really only know exactly what the front is going to look like. I'm not too sure about the sides. It's probably going to look similar to the front, but we're just not going to worry about this side yet. Now, here is where we need the jungle wood, but also where we need, oh, you know what? We need one of these. And we need some of those. I'm still tinkering with ideas for the roof. Okay, I actually had almost just enough mud for what I'm trying to do here. Not enough for the second floor, but I'm trying this. I have a couple of different ideas. Oh, I don't have flower pots either. That's something that I need for a little bit of detailing up there. I'm toying with a couple of different ideas for railings. I'm currently leaning fence gates. I really like the hanging signs as railings, but the thing that bugs the hell out of me is that because they're entities, they stop rendering when you get really far away. So they don't look good from a distance, which I'd like to, you know, I'd like to be able to look at this from a distance and have it not suck. So let's see, that is the wrong trident. Yes, the name of my trident did change between takes. I realized I'd misspelled it. We're gonna do, I'm just gonna do slabs for now. I might change my mind later. That is 34, or 32 is not 6 times 6. And it's certainly not 8 times 8. I'm thinking I'm doing jungle. I've alternated back and forth a lot between jungle and oak, but I think I'm going to stick with jungle. I'm concerned it's not going to look good in vanilla because I've tweaked the jungle texture a little bit in my resource pack to make it a little less green in places. And also just my plank texture is different because I liked the development texture a little better than the current one. I think the current plank texture is a little too, I don't know, shiny, beveled. I don't know. This looks like actual rougher, like just, you know, broken log with your bare hands type thing. But I think I'm gonna go with these railings for now. If you put it next to the wall, it goes down slightly so that it lines up better when you've got two walls on either side. And I think that makes for a good arch. I can do this temporarily. I'm going to put flower pots here. I don't like using string for stuff like this because I know it's very hard to see, but I can see it, and it bugs me. But I'm going to put flower pots here so that you get the wall post on top of that. And then, obviously, going forward, my plan would be that the floor would continue up from here. And you'd sort of have more on top of this. But I do not, at this time, even have enough resources to make 6 mud bricks, because for some reason, I should fix that. You should be able to stone cut mud into mud bricks. I mean, for God's sake, if you can turn a copper block into a copper grate and a stone cutter, I feel like you should be able to work with mud a little better. But it would just be something like this, and then there'd be another layer of mud bricks on top of that. So let's go down and take a look at sort of the preliminary. It's not going to look, yeah, it's not going to look as good as it will when I'm done. I think that's got to change up there. I don't like how that looks. Yeah, all right. This is tremendously difficult. These are the hoops I have to jump through when the replay mod is not updated for this version. Come on. Yeah. To sort of get a... Oop, that was the string, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yep, and then we just want to put that... We want to put that there. And... This is uncomfortable. Okay. And yeah, nope. There we go. String, string, string. Okay. Yeah, so I want to mossify this a little more. Put some azalea leaves in, get some glowberries mixed in a little better. This right here needs to be an azalea leaf. Probably this one above it should be something else too. I don't know. But you sort of get the idea of where it's going. I don't know. I might extend the deep slate up a little more, especially on this side. And obviously need to detail over here. But you sort of get the idea. And I do think something I'm going to do. I'm going to try and decide where the buildings are going to go first, build up just the mud core of them, and then try and detail the outside like I did here, and just see how that works. It's going to look really weird for a while, but it'll probably save me a lot of time. And by God, do I need scaffolding. But if we come in here, this is sort of going to be the interior space we have to work with. It's going to be very vertical. There's not going to be a front door. Like, to get up here, it's going to be something like, again, I don't have the materials for it, so we're just going to... I did not take that into account. Okay. There's going to be a thing here, and then if I had trapdoors, I'd use them. But it'd be like trapdoors with ladders on them going down, and then this ladder might not even reach all the way down here. It might just be hanging there like it's not fully extended, and then there'd just be like a pot here. You have to jump up, go up. Remember to silk touch this. This is going to be a problem too. The mushroomification of side panels. And then you'd get up into here, and there'd be stairs or a ladder or something that would go down to the floor below. And I might even raise this because that window is there. But you get the concept, I think, from where I'm going with this. I definitely got a detail. Again, the bane of my existence right now is that the replay mod that I use for making time lapses is not updated. So if I want to build on a large scale, I have to time lapse it like, you know, with a camera account as we would do in the Dark Ages. And I don't like having 2 game windows run at the same time. And if I'm recording a time lapse, it also means that I have to edit out the audio track. So I find it weird going back and editing and having to hear a podcast that I already listened to playing back over my audio track. But yeah, it's a whole affair. Right. Do I have anything else to detail with? This may be a mistake, but I want to have roads in here. The mistake may honestly be what level I'm about to set the roads at. But just for the sake of argument, the roads I almost think are also going to be deep slate like this, but to break it up from the base of it, I'm actually going to start the deep slate part slightly away, and it's going to sort of be textured with the top faces and the side faces a little bit, like that too. But I'm going to start the deep slate a little bit away from the building and actually just have some more moss, you know, as though the plant has spread to here as well. I'm going to use that to sort of delineate between where the deep slate road is and where the deep slate wall is, right? So you can sort of see that that's a little broken up, because I like this as paving, as a pavement texture, and I like that you can rotate it to sort of get, you know, scraggly roads. That's not an adjective that you apply to pavement. But I also like it for the base of this building. And I haven't built with deep slate much, because, you know, by the time I was halfway done with Palms Ahoy, you know, deep slate was a relatively new thing. There wasn't a whole lot I could do with it. But I think something... Oop, I meant to switch to the bucket first, and my mouse wheel did not respond. See, I don't want to get it too close up to that. And I think if I do, I'm going to use the top texture there, and then sort of bring it out to the side texture here as it's further away. Because deep slate also has a sort of interesting property of you can put it right up against itself, and it won't immediately blend in because the top is that much lighter than the sides. But I don't know, I kind of like how this is looking so far. And you can see why I wanted the plains grass. I don't normally go for this grass color because it's sort of yellow and almost kind of dry looking. But next to the moss, it's very similar, and you can really easily blend the grass and the moss and the... What the hell? What is happening? Okay, you can really easily blend the grass and the moss and the leaves and the azalea leaves on top of that and the glowberries in ways that you normally couldn't in, say, a forest, or I think we have a meadow around here. I think the cherry grove is also going to have a really good grass color for this too, and I want to incorporate that into this in some way, but I'm not sure how yet. But you can sort of see how it all blends really well, color-wise. But one more thing I want to do is I want to put down sort of, I guess, the mission statement. I have a color palette that I've built in Creative that's just how the colors are gonna mesh together and what blocks I really want to focus on using. And I want to see if I can put that down somewhere, but that might be a later project because I have other stuff I want to do, namely getting a glass of water. I'm quite thirsty, and it's quite past my bedtime, and I wanted to get this done while I had a free moment. But yeah, I think this is gonna look, when this is all in, I wanted to go a little taller and then end, so that there's like another floor's worth of room above this. But I think when this is all put together, it's gonna look pretty good. I think the glowberries are really gonna add a lot to it, though. I'm gonna stick that on there, and not even for the berries, just for the vines. I might use the berries later. I have a weird color palette planned for some of this. I have like a core color palette, but then I want to branch out a little more with it and really get weird with the colors in ways that I think are really going to pop against what is a fairly neutral... I started with this fairly neutral palette, and I thought it worked fine. And then I hit on the idea of really mixing up the color palette around it. And I think with the very neutral tones and the really weird, vibrant palette that I'm going to mix into this, it really, really draws the eye better to the vibrant color palette, having this sort of neutral structure around it. I think it's going to be really interesting. This isn't something I play around with very much, and I don't know. I think it's going to be neat. But yeah, this is sort of the start of it. I need to plan it out a little more. I need to figure out where the center is going to be. And I think the next thing I'm going to do is I might go spelunking, because I found out from other people that there is an ancient city like right over here. Let me see if I can find it. I don't really know where the entrance is relative to myself, but Dark Llama was like right down there, right under that. And I think it might even just be right over here. Let me look around a little. It's right here, yeah. So this is sort of the entrance to it. There's the Equinox Bell even that leads into it. Is there any cool stuff? Hell yeah. I'm taking that. This is my land. You people were trespassing. This has got to be redone. I can't have this on my front lawn, but there's an ancient city right down there. And I find a lot of the time, especially with what I've done with ancient cities, with how big they get, they generate in weirdly close proximity. And I'm almost wondering if there's more deep dark down here, if there might not be a second ancient city like right under where my house is. And if that's the case, that's going to be the center, I think. If I can find a second one. Oh my god, there's horses here. I've been riding camels and there's horses here. Oh, this is interesting too. Man. I don't know. What the hell am I going to center this on? What I really want to do is be able to have farms in different area codes, as it were, and really be able to have a conflux of things. I might even put the center of it over here. Really have a conflux of things routing back and forth into, yeah, depending on how far down that goes, this might end up being the center. But I really want to have a conflux of things, like all converging from different biomes, just growing all the different crops and whatever else I can get away with, and just bringing it over here. Yeah, this is gonna be an interesting project, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the hell comes of it. But in the meantime, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm tired, and I'm on the verge of losing my train of thought. Also, been talking for an hour straight. Hard drive does not have as much space as I would like it to. Have not finished editing the first episode at this point. Don't know what episode I'm on now. Hopefully it's not like 7, and I've just been screwing around for 7 episodes in the Birdplate. Technically it's not 7. And one more thing I'd like to say. I'm also going to really diversify these buildings. When I was doing, in Season 5, when I was working on the Sunken Condos, something I did was I tried to get everything in one place. Like my iron farm and my pumpkin farm, my melon farm, they all sort of had the same drop-off point, right? And that was, not far from where my smeltery was and my fishing nets. And something I want to do here, I really want to spread it out. I want it really, like, there might even be multiple storage buildings. There might be like a, dirt and stone storage building, and then there might be a wood storage building, and there might be a food storage building. And maybe just a master sorting building where I dump all my stuff off and it goes to these different buildings and sorts them, right? But I want each building to, basically each building is going to be a single serving site, essentially. You go in there, you've got one thing. Like, I go in here, this is going to just be my house, right? This probably won't just be my house. I'm probably going to build a better one for my house. But, like, if this would just be my house. It wouldn't be my storage. It wouldn't be like an enchanting room or a brewing room or a smeltery. It might not even have a crafting table in it. This is just where I go to sleep. And every time I want to go in there, I have to jump on an urn and climb up a fire escape and go down 2 flights of stairs and then out through a maintenance shed or whatever. And that's the whole thing. And also, these tall vertical buildings with the mace, are going to be very fun. But I digress. That's me. I'm going to go do something else, i.e. get a glass of water. All right, Cabiri, are we ready? Okay, cut the ceremony. I gotta get that gate back in 15 minutes, so let's get it moving. Come on, we are wasting daylight. Do you need daylight? Doesn't matter. Keep moving. Who the hell are you?
I'm just here for the vibes.
Do you know how to dig a hole?
Yes.
All right, get going.
Yippee!
Odyssey, remind me to look into that.
Reminder set.